Welcome back. We're still exploring the 10th year anniversary of the Chibok Girls abduction. Issac Abrak is a journalist and he joins us now in the studio to help us with a discuss of the abduction of the 276 schoolgirls 10 years ago. He will touch on the global outrage and interventions as well as Nigerian government actions and inaction since the incident. Good to have you with us, Issac. Hopefully you can hear us now.
Yes, I can hear you.
Very good. And, all the discussions we've been having, what are your thoughts 10 years on? Things don't look right at the moment, you think?
Well, to be honest, it doesn't look so well. And why do I say this? Because 10 years down the line now, we are still having the same incidents of mass kidnapping of school children in Nigeria. I mean, just last month in Kaduna State, in February in Kaduna State, 287 children, primary school children, were picked, in a similar fashion in Kaduna State. So the question is, why are we not learning our lessons? There are lessons that I, as a journalist, picked up about the abduction of the Chibok girls in 2014. Those same issues replicated themselves, in Dapchi in 2018 when Leah Sheribu and her classmates were picked up. Those similar incidences also reappeared again, in Katsina in 2020, when they picked up the schoolgirls, 300 of them in Kankara. And also what we had in Kaduna State. So, I mean, we cannot be celebrating, when these things has not left us. Because we are supposed to, to grow, we are supposed to learn from our mistakes and improve upon them. But unfortunately, the case in Kuriga did not show that.
All right, Issac, talk to us. What's your perception about the government's handling of all those major crises?
First, I like to admit that having embedded with the Nigerian army on several occasions, while covering insurgency, since 2010, I have come to see the level of commitment, on the side of particularly the soldiers in the war front, and also, of course, the officers. They've paid, most of them have paid the supreme price. Some have lost by losing their lives. Some have lost part of their bodies, and all of those. So we have to give credit to the Nigerian security system, particularly the army, for some of the achievement that we have scored so far. As we're talking today, we have recovered at least about 170 of the Chibok girls thereabout. That is a credit to the Nigerian government. But again, the reoccurrence of this situation does not give us joy. For instance, when they took the Chibok girls in 2014, before the arrival of these terrorists to the Chibok community, people had information. The people of Chibok had the information that there were terrorists that were approaching Chibok. And they made frantic efforts to reach out to the government, to the local government, to the state government, to the military that were in charge of security around Chibok, But yet, this help did not come until these girls were picked up. The same thing in Dapchi. The people knew that they had information that these people were coming. And despite effort to reach out to these people, to the authorities, this crime still happened.
10 years, 365 days in a year means 3,650 days since this abduction has actually happened. And Oba raised a very, very poignant point, which states that the media have not done enough to ensure they remind the government that injustice to one is injustice to all. That 91 people are remaining while we celebrate over 180 people returned is not good enough. What do you think? Talk to us about the role of the media in all of this crisis that has happened, but chiming into the Chibok Girls incident.
Honestly, I like to commend the media from my point of view, for all its efforts that it has deployed, in our clamor, to get back the Chibok girls. I remembered when these girls were picked on, a lot of us risked our lives, to travel from Maiduguri to Chibok. I personally traveled from, I went by road. I believe they were in commercial flights then, so I went by road. I drove from Kaduna to Abuja, and with my colleagues, we were taking risks, from Maiduguri to Chibok. And I believe that the media has held on to this tempo, by putting pressure every year, on the government. Yes, fatigue might have set in here and there, but overall, I think we are still very much committed, and that is why I am here. And I believe, Aaron, that is why Arise TV have been on this thing for, I believe, more than 6-7 hours now on this Chibok issue. So to me, I am convinced that the media is still very much committed, and we are still handling our responsibilities to ensure that government return the remaining girls of Chibok girls that were taken.
Very good, Isaac. I'd like us to look at some issues. I was reading one of your write-ups recently about forest guards and vigilantes as an approach towards reducing kidnappings in northern schools. But do you think that is enough? And over time, how has that helped the scenario? Not just only in Borno, but in northern schools, as it were.
Yes, and thank you for bringing this so quickly. Because I have been opportuned, to have covered most of these mass kidnappings, as I was saying, from Chibok in 2014 to Dapchi. I was there in Kankara in 2020, Jangebe in Zamfara 2021, the Bethel school girls, school children in Kaduna, 100 of them were taken, in 2021. There seems to be some elements in these incidents of kidnapping that keeps replaying itself. And this was what I was saying. Most times, the people of these communities have information that there are people, there are terrorists that are coming, that are approaching, their communities. Sometimes they might not know the target, but they know that these people are coming. And if these people are coming, it means that the security should have the ample time to have planned, to either forestall this thing or quickly go after them immediately they have carried out this attack. And this is why we feel that the forest guard, the revitalized forest guard, which Bola Ahmed Tinubu promised in his manifesto, and which he has done so well by ensuring that the governors go back to their states and revitalize it. He charged them just in February to ensure that they arm them and also increase their numbers. Now, why do we think that this very revitalized forest guard can help in curbing these mass abductions? One is that this revitalized forest guard, according to the recommendation of the Northern Christian Youth Professionals, the group, the Christian group which supported Bola Ahmed Tinubu since 2022, that what we are saying is that this revitalized forest guard should recruit its members from the forest community. And since these incidences of abductions happens mostly to schools who are in the remote areas or are in the villages or are in the forests, it means that people in these communities have the capacity, understand the forest more than our troops. And probably they would be able to gather intelligence which they can use to supply the military or the police that will help us to nip this in the bud. For instance, these parents that just left your studio now, just imagine if the parent of Chibok, who had information that terrorists were coming to Chibok, and they are involved in this forest guard, then they will be able, I believe that, they will be able to inform the military. And if they don't have the capacity in terms of weaponry, if they don't have sophisticated weapon to confront this terrorist, Sheko and his people, the military would have been able to tell them, okay, you can do this before we arrive. You can either evacuate these children and take them to hide into this place. You can take some steps before we arrive. As such, we believe that the superior knowledge of the forest of the forest guard would help to secure our schools. And again, we can also deploy a unit of this forest guard to secure these schools. Remember that in most instances, if some of these schools that have been attacked do not even have perimeter fencing. So if they don't have perimeter fencing, this forest guard can help, to always patrol around these schools to secure these schools. Don't forget that in most of the situation, the people who will be members of this forest guard in these communities, let's stay with Chibok. In Chibok, for instance, now, their kids would be the ones that will be studying in these schools. And as such, the level to which this forest guard will be committed to protecting these schools, will be, will be high up there. Will be optimal. So this is why we believe that the forest guard will play a big role, in securing our schools.
Isaac, I would like to draw your attention. Some analysts believe that it's just a matter of time. That it's a sad reality, but it's just a matter of time before the next abduction, mass abduction, happens again. That with or without the forest guards, that if a state of emergency is not declared on mass kidnapping, especially within schools in the north, that it's just a matter of time. Because how much is too much will be the big question. Because we've seen things like this being set up. The JTF in Plateau State, for example, how much did that help? A little. They moved the needle a little bit. But you and I know what has happened since the JTF went into Plateau State. And all the incidences that happened, all the flashpoints and incidences that happened after that. And some are still insisting it's just a matter of time. It's a harsh and sad reality. But if the government is still taking lukewarm steps towards these issues, it is just a matter of time. What do you have to say to this?
Yes, I don't blame any analyst that would say that, because given the nature of the way these mass kidnappings have continuously, repeated itself, But then when you say that despite, even though with the forest guard in place, these kidnappings could still happen. And also you added that with the issue about the civilian joint task force, which has not really changed much. What we need to really look at is that, and I want to ask the question, if you declare a state of emergency today, what exactly is the state of emergency going to do differently from what our military are doing today? And immediately what will come to my head is that you deploy, a lot of military people into this forest and all of that. I don't think that is the way to go. What I think is that we are lucky. We have a situation in our hands. The president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, saw it in his wisdom to revitalize the forest guard. And we are calling on Nigerians to support this. Also the governors of the state governors to support this. And why do we think that the forest guard is also going to succeed? Aaron, please don't forget the role that the civilian joint task force played in rescuing Maiduguri from falling to the hands of Boko Haram in 2012. So much that a state of emergency was declared. And it was still the use of civilian joint task force which recruited youths from Maiduguri city and environs. And these youths brought in what we believe the forest guard will bring in. Their superior knowledge of the environment. Their superior knowledge of the city of Maiduguri was what the military collaborated with them, and that was what they used, in spoken out the elements of Boko Haram from the city of Maiduguri, from the township of Maiduguri, and forced Boko Haram to remain in Sambisa. I always say it. Boko Haram is in Sambisa. It is not by choice. It is because of the activities of the military in collaboration with the civilian JTF that time that has kept them there. And as such, Aaron, we are saying that we don't need to wait. We don't need to declare a state of emergency yet. We have the forest guard, which the president has charged the governors to arm them and also increase them numerically. And so we are saying that let us use this forest guard just like the way we use the civilian joint task force in Maiduguri. The forest guard, let's go to Kuriga. Let me use Kuriga for instance. The people of Kuriga now, if we have a revitalized forest guard, well paid, well equipped, well motivated, motivations mean getting them to understand that what they are doing, it's inculcating nationalism, the role of citizenship in them. Let them understand that if you are securing Kuriga community, for instance, you are securing Nigeria, because the forest, with the way the forest is, these people can move from Enugu to Sambisa to Bauchi at any time. But if we can secure our forest, if every community can secure its forest, these people will have nowhere to run to. So therefore, if we have forest guard in Kuriga, for instance, who are well motivated, who are well taken care of, there is no way, I can assure you, Aaron, that they would not have been able to forestall this. Yes, somebody would argue and say that the Kaduna state government already has a vigilante force. Yes, they have a vigilante force. But what is the role of this vigilante force? Aaron, I tell you, this is what I've been doing for more than 15 years. Most of the vigilantes are also patrolling in the townships, in the cities. But we are talking about a forest guard that their own commitment, their area of focus, of work, is in the forest. So if we have these forest people in the forest guarding around Kuriga, for instance, they would have seen when these people would have come in. They would have been able to alert the people. So we're saying to the president, we don't have to wait. We're saying to the governors, we don't have to wait until another attack happens. We have the forest guard that already some governors are already implementing. I'd like to use this opportunity to appreciate the governors of Niger State, the governors of Ebonyi and Ekiti State. I heard that Ekiti and Ebonyi have already started recruiting the forest guard. This is something that we must do. And Aaron, back to your question again. Forest guard will be what Nigeria will be doing differently in terms of fighting insurgency and mass school abduction. Forest guard is going to be the difference, because the civilian joint task force were not deployed to the forest. They only go for patrol and come back.
Indeed.
But this time around, we want a standing force in Sambisa forest.
All right, Isaac, Abrak, we're going to come back to you, but we need to take this story. The kidnapping of the schoolgirls in Chibok changed each and every one of their lives. There's a story of one girl who was one of the luckier ones, managing to jump out of the truck as she was taken away and sprint to safety. Correspondent Judita Da Silva reports.
10 years ago, Dina Lawan awoke to a living nightmare. Gunfire surrounded her as Boko Haram fighters stormed her school. But as she was being driven into the shadows, she managed to escape. Now she's pursuing a PhD at Berkeley in California. But that night is never far from Dina's mind.
I don't think two weeks will actually pass by without me at least remembering something from there, because I mean it's inevitable. This journey itself, like it's a product of that incident, right? I ended up in America. I mean, like me going to a private school, a better school, it all happened because of this incident. So whatever I do, I will always remember these incidents. And so, I mean, my friends are still in captivity.
Dina now dedicates her research to ensuring that what happened to her and her friends never happens again.
I, took multiple classes on violence, and I think almost all of my research, papers, mainly focus on, Boko Haram, how to dismantle Boko Haram, why this specific group, was originated, from the first place, the root causes of the organization.
What Dina went through would have broken some girls, and it did initially deter her from returning to school. But in the end, she was determined not to let the militants win.
Not going to school, for me at the time will kind of, give the power, to Boko Haram, the power they sought. Like, okay, this thing happened to you in school. We don't want you to go to school, and now you're not going to school, so we got you. We give you, we have the power now. So me not going to school will actually give them the power they think that, they had. So I was like, no, you are not going to take that away from me. I know I had I always had a dream prior to the kidnapping.
Dina now looks to the future, a future that at one point she wasn't sure she'd have.
You're still watching a special coverage of the Chibok Girls 10 years after. And we still have with us in our Abuja studio, Issac Abrak, a journalist, as he joins us to have a robust discourse about the abduction of the 276 girls on the 14th of April 2014. And 10 years after, 91 are still in the custody of the kidnapper and abductors. And Issac, let's pick it up from that particular point. 91 girls are still in the custody of the abductors. It's unfortunate that we do not even have an inkling, or we do not have an understanding of the state of the girls, because somehow there are reports that some of them have passed away. Some of them have been married off. Talk to us. How disheartening is this? That on record, 91 have not been returned, but we do not even know where, how, and when they will even return. Big questions to be asked.
Aaron, it is sad, it is disheartening. Sometimes anytime these Chibok Girls issues comes around, it makes us begin to question our nationalism, our spirit of patriotism, the spirit of patriotism in our leaders, the spirit of nationalism, in our leaders. I personally, I have a parent, I don't want to mention their name here, a family whom I interviewed in 2014 when I went to Chibok. I've been in constant touch with them since from then up to this moment. Anytime you speak to this mother, it seems as if her daughter was kidnapped just yesterday. She is always asking of when her daughter is going to come back. So it leaves a stain, unfortunately, for lack of another word to say, it leaves a stain in the history of Nigeria, that at some particular point in time, a number of girls were picked up from their hostels because these children were basically in the hands of the government. The schools belongs to the government. So when you send your your daughter to school, you hand them over to the government. And yet the government, they were picked up. Yes, the government has done well by getting a good number of them out. But even one of the Chibok girls that will be left behind will still not be satisfied until all of them, are back. So it is not a good. It's not a good thing. It's not a good feeling and also it's not a good repetition. It's not a good history, for Nigeria. So I employ the government, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to ensure that he does everything that he can do, to bring back these girls. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is on the advantage in bringing back these girls. The governor of the state, as of when these girls were picked, is now his vice president. Right. The president who returned these girls, some of these girls, belongs to the same party, is the same party man with him, President Muhammadu Buhari. They're in the same party. They have the same ideology. They are friends, So therefore, it means that whatever Buhari did, to be able to bring back those girls, he can easily be passed on to this president, to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I know President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is very much committed, to bring back these girls. So we call upon him to do that. Again, I want to say something, and these are most of the things I'm saying are things that I've picked up, in my 15 years of covering Nigerian insecurity situations, all over the country. It's difficult. The government might not come out readily and tell us that they don't have information about these girls. I believe that our security people should still be monitoring them, and also because I know that at some point I know that they were monitoring these girls, and also to say here, Aaron, that there is also another reality that we have to live with, as Nigerians, as parents of these children. Some of these children, some of these girls, they will be adults by now. Some of these girls would have most probably been radicalized. I was opportune to interview one of the negotiator who was involved in negotiating for the release of these girls. And he told me clearly that some of the girls had said that they do not want to return. In fact, there was a particular case where one of the girls was handed over and she ran back, to our captors. Well, this is hearsay. This is just something that is being passed to us. But again, knowing what Boko Haram does is they try to brainwash people, and inculcate them and dominate them with their false ideology. So therefore, as much as the government, is working tirelessly to bring back these girls, we must be able to understand that some of these girls, in quotes, might be happily, settled, with their so-called husbands.
Very good, Isaac. If I may butt in here, I apologize for that. Because of time, I'd like us to go back to the fact of the issue regarding intelligence gathering, which you also wrote about not too long ago. And you talked earlier about people having enough information. But then again, it's one thing to have information. How proactive is that information being given to the custodians of the security who are supposed to act on it? Because earlier, before you came on, we're talking about in the studio, the first 48 hours of any crime scene is the most, crucial, because the clues are still there. Once you miss that opportunity, the case runs cold. Okay? So regarding that, and we could also link this to the concept of regular evaluation of feedback mechanism, which you also mentioned in your write-up. It's one thing to have all of this information just there. If you don't act upon it on time, then we will still be where we are today.
Yes, and when you were mentioning this, it just brought to my mind again that in 2014, when the Chibok girls were kidnapped, we had a lot of rumors going around saying that it was the opposition party or some people that were against the government of President Goodluck Jonathan that had orchestrated this kidnapping of these girls. Again, with the issue about Kuriga, we have also had, this government, which was in opposition at that time in 2014, also saying that, insinuating that, saying directly that it is the Kuriga, those behind the Kuriga are people who, political rivals, who wants to sabotage the government. So I'm bringing this to the background of what you're saying, to say that, so could it be that this is true, that there are political saboteurs, even in governments, who slow down how the level of the way our army or our military or the security agencies respond, as in the case of Chibok, when they were called, they didn't respond in time. Could this be the situation? But yet, at the end of the day, we as citizens, especially as journalists, will still simply tell the government whether these people are political saboteurs or they are not political saboteurs. At the end of the day, they are all criminals. And what we expect is that whether the person is doing to sabotage this government or not, he is a criminal, and as such, the situation should be dealt with, appropriately. The issue about response. In all of my reporting of hostile situations in Nigeria, the issue about how our security responds to emergency calls, or what was the word for that, when people call for help, has always not been so efficient. And what I can say as a journalist, practically what I can say is that sometimes our military, the maneuvering of the terrain, it might be difficult for people to accept that. The maneuvering of the terrain, traveling in, moving, from one location to the other, to connect from one location to the other, sometimes it's a bit difficult, for our troops. And this is where the forest guard comes in again. The forest guard can gather information. The forest guard can gather information before the troops respond, come on the scene. The forest guard can communicate with the troops, and the troops can tell the forest guard who are domiciled in that community, can you people do this and that? Can you people evacuate these people? Can you people do this so that to distract these people? I believe that there are little things that the forest guard can be able to handle before the main, the guys who are professionally trained with the full task of combating these criminals come to the scene. So, if the forest guard is on ground, we are sure. Can I just finish this point? If the forest guard is on ground, we are sure of efficient collection of intelligence. We are sure of efficient standard channel to which the forest guard would move this intelligence quickly to the army. And at that time, they would have been trained on how to carry out little issues, little techniques or measures before our military, come to the scene.
Issac, Abrak, I want to say thank you very much on this very auspicious occasion for joining us and also lending your voice. It's been 10 years and counting.